This is Quarantine Chronicles, episode 18. It is, well, when you are listening to this, audio listener, it will be January 24th. We're recording on the 23rd, just breaking, we're looking behind the curtain, the same way that Dorothy did at the end of The Wizard of Oz. I have not seen The Wizard of Oz.
Really?
Maybe we'll,
maybe
we'll do that for an episode.
Seen it either.
What?
I
Wizard of Oz?
I've performed in a stage play of it in elementary school. I've seen various parody versions of The Wizard of Oz, but I don't think I've seen the original in its completion. I know I've seen parts of it, but I think
at this point, I think enough parodies. We've seen enough parodies or clips online that we know the beats of the movie.
Right.
At this, we've basically seen the movie at this point.
Yeah.
And who are we? Speaking of we.
Well, yeah. So.
Wait. So you actually have seen it, Jason?
Yes, I have. I'm Jason. Thank you, Angel. He called out my name. Oh, and that's Angel. Look at that. We're just calling each other.
My virtual right, Jason. My virtual left, Angel. And we have a pretty jam-packed episode for you.
And you're Kevin.
And I'm Kevin. God damn. I'm so stressed. I'm so stressed out. Oh, it's been a weird week. How are you guys?
I'm doing okay. It's been a whiplash of weather out here too. It was like scorching hot, like 90 plus degrees on Monday. Now it's like rainy and like 50 today. I feel like someone in Canada is like, dude, it's negative 20. What are you talking about? But for LA,
also had like extremely high wind in Downey, like around Tuesday or Wednesday. That I remember, like we got like a message saying like, oh, we might get a power outage just in case, just so you're aware. Be ready for that. We didn't.
Is this a podcast low or a podcast high that we've resorted to talking about the weather? The ultimate in,
I mean, we're talking about
like
weather
shallow
extreme.
conversation.
It's not like we're
going,
it's been a nice crisp 70 degrees out. Perfect temperature to.
No one calls 70 degrees crisp. I would hope.
Why is that?
I think in California we
cold?
Do we? I feel like crisp here would be like 62. Like 70 still.
62?
That's way too cold. No.
62.
That's way too cold.
Crisp 62.
Crisp is like you could go outside in a t-shirt.
Crisp? No. What? No. Do you think crisp is like you're frying an egg and it gets crisp? Because crisp is the opposite.
No.
Cold.
I consider crisp like almost like I don't want to say like perfect temperature, but just a step above cool. Like just cool enough and just warm enough that I don't know why I even use the word crisp. But
so as someone that lived in winter weather for a good chunk of his childhood, crisp usually implies not that. So crisp is usually like it's brisk out. They're kind of interchangeable. Like it's like
chilly.
Well, now you're making me define brisk. Not exactly true. It's just like the air. It's like winter, like a clear winter day is crisp. Like it's like the air just feels like.
Well, break it down. Crispy is like we have that cereal Rice Krispies. I'm guessing crispy is for something that is popping or crumbly.
No, well, okay, crumble is not one of the
really
three
help
verbs
with how
Rice
you would translate that
It's snap crackle. Hold on, it's snap crackle pop. It's not snap crumble pop. It's not like blue cheese.
They're called Rice Krispies.
No, but yes, think of Rice Krispies. Think of like when you bite into Rice Krispie, that kind of like brisk, like that. To it. That's sort of like the air.
That's how the weather feels. It's like nice and satisfying. It's like, yes, nice and perfect.
That's definitely not. I mean, you're also the guy
definitely would consider that crisp, I guess. Like if it's I can just wear a t-shirt outside and maybe some shorts, that's some nice crisp weather.
That's not what okay.
I'm siding with Angel. My voice broke there. I'm siding with Angel.
That's how passionate you are. It's defined as firm or brittle or describes cool weather or writing and talking in an abrupt but polite way. I pulled up.
Okay, well you're in California now, so you got to adapt.
It's crisp air is cold, dry, and fresh. Like mountain air.
At least I got someone to agree with me on this one compared to in another
downhill
chat with some other friends. Like I was using it's all downhill from here as a positive because it's easier to go downhill than uphill. I feel like if you say it's all uphill from here, like
okay, yeah, no, you don't know. That's absolutely wrong. What are you talking
Angel,
about?
you had one ally and you just lost him instantly. Like you
this is an ally.
You had someone on your side, and you're like, let me tell you my other weird English isms.
I mean, if it's all downhill, you're coasting. You could just you don't even have to pedal. You just go down, blazing speed, having fun. I mean, speed is apparently one of the best sensations people could feel. So therefore, if it's all downhill from there.
So what happens, Angel, at the end of going downhill when you have all that speed?
You reach your destination faster.
But how do you stop. Because the idea with it's all downhill from here is it becomes out of control and you keep building speed and you keep going and going. It gets worse and worse.
Yeah, have you ever seen those videos of people like in San Francisco just lining up to go down a hill on like skateboards? Well,
this is a metaphorical downhill. Like
some of these guys eat.
Oh yeah,
hard.
I'm shocked some of them don't go like straight off like
because
the pier.
It's all uphill for them.
I'm like surprised that some of them just don't straight up die on some of those.
I mean, yes, they're literally going downhill, but their, I guess, struggles are going uphill. Huh. It's not very literal, but like in this metaphorical downhill, there is still more than enough space to stop and maybe crash into a giant cushion that will stop you safely.
So what you're saying is when you say, hey, it's all going downhill, you need to then amend to that. And what I mean by that is there's a big cushion at the end. So it's a positive every time you use the phrase in the way you choose to use it.
Yeah, but I never use it. That's just kind of how like I think about it sometimes when I decide to overthink it. You know, shower thoughts. It's like, I would rather go downhill than uphill.
That is a good save at the end. That this wasn't misinterpretations. It's just shower thoughts.
Yeah, you can think
good
of it
save.
As shower thought.
Good save.
Yeah. Because, I mean, you never really hear anyone say it's all uphill from here. Because, I mean, yeah, I guess...
No, but they will say, you know, it's been an uphill climb, or it's been an uphill struggle, or it's been, you know...
Yeah, which is supposed to be the negative.
Uphill battle, there we go, thank you.
So I guess going in either direction of a hill is considered bad.
Well,
because
I mean, think about...
struggle, or it's all downhill, like, they're both used in a negative way.
Well, I think to a degree, when you say it's all downhill from here, I guess people are also thinking like, okay, we're going all the way down to hell, maybe?
Yeah, I think they're thinking about like, you know, the stock market graph where it's like, oh, profits, everything's going down. Because, you know, down is typically considered something negative. But I was thinking about, but then I took it, I guess, a step higher where it's like, you know, downhill, like going down an actual hill is relatively easy and fun. Typically,
I think you actually mean a step lower because you talk about downhill. No, but what I was gonna say is you do bring up an interesting thing about like how words can have like because you're like uphill and downhill mean the same thing. Like think about like that you know someone's saying something's cool or something's hot. Those are both positives. They're opposite words. So it is funny how English kind of works like that. Like even that like we know of like you know Paris Hilton's like that's hot in like 2006. We knew for that also meant that's cool, but they're literally the opposite definitions. So it's not that uncommon.
Did that ever really catch on like that's hot?
I mean, it was her catchphrase for a while.
Well, yeah, but did
you know, a modern example.
To, like the general public, like I feel like no one ever says that's hot for something that's cool.
Not really, but people knew what it meant was kind of my point. Or a better example is people saying stuff is lit. Lit is something on fire.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. There was
and cool is the opposite of it, but they are used interchangeably.
Yeah, these last couple of years, lit was. I mean, I still use it.
Dead. Oh,
one of our
people
good
use
friends,
it.
Gilbert still uses it.
Yes, and people use it with AF a lot, which I'm just throwing out there. Lit AF. I know it's not AF. I'm not that old.
I've definitely heard people say lit AF or AF.
Yeah.
AF, I feel like I've heard more. AF is more like...
Well, AF is people poking... Well, AF is people making fun of AF, I think.
I don't think you were, though.
I definitely was, because it's an acronym. It stands for something. But anyway, my point is, so like the idea that like a word has to have a logical explanation doesn't necessarily hold water because, you know, they contradict themselves all the time. Slang is a weird thing. Slang is a very weird thing.
I mean, yeah. Language is interesting. I mean, case in point, my whole downhill thing. But, I mean, I guess I kind of speaking of shower thoughts, like something that I guess I have been thinking about like this weekend, kind of like since quarantine began, just because, we haven't really been going to restaurants a lot lately. If anything, a lot of us have been ordering in and taking that experience out of it and literally just eating, you know, just the food. So essentially all you get to judge a restaurant by now is literally just the quality of the food. And for the longest time, like, I've never really been a fan of higher end restaurants, and I know this is a very subjective thing. Not so much because the food is bad, but it's mainly because I feel like something I like to coin, if it doesn't already exist, the yum to buck ratio. Essentially,
the yum to buck ratio.
The yum
essentially
to buck ratio.
How much
our episode title?
Yeah, I think so.
Essentially, how delicious a food is per dollar spent on its value. Per dollar spent on it. So I could go to, say, I don't know, I'll just say a quick example, like Jack in the Box and get a $3 or less sriracha burger. They're not as great now, but at one point I thought they were really great. It was like one of my favorite fast food burgers. You know, the sourdough, the sriracha, everything was just great on it. The excess of pickled jalapenos, yum, yum, yum. And yeah, like I just really...
on a side note, I'm sorry to cut you off. I absolutely hate the word yum, Y-U-M, any variations of yummy. I
it sounds silly, but...
Why is that, Kevin?
it's such a childish word to me, I think. Like, when I think yum, I think, oh, okay, a toddler.
You don't know how to properly describe it?
Like yummy in my tummy type of thing?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, God, yeah. I'm about to end the episode right there. Jesus Christ. I don't ever want to hear you say those words again, okay? All right, continue with the
yum in my tum-tum.
I mean, to be honest, I actually was trying to think of other, I guess, rhyming scheme or just a name for this better than yum to buck. My initial was actually like delish to dollar or dollar to delish ratio or something like that.
Yum to buck, I think.
But yum to buck, but it's concise.
Yeah.
It's just it's shorter. I think you want the 3 syllable.
You want as few syllables as possible. Yeah.
Well, yeah, so to continue on the sriracha burger thing, I really enjoyed that burger for $3. It felt like, wow, I really got my money's worth. Then we go to a restaurant. I couldn't even tell you the name of some of these because we've gone to so many. But let's say something like, maybe not Father's Office. Sure, Father's Office.
An LA staple for those outside of the city.
Oh, actually, a better, or like Slater's 2020. So we get a burger there. On average, like the burger will cost like $20 or like something like around that price range. And at most, I'll enjoy their burger, but for how much I'm spending on it, it feels way too overpriced. And I know part of it is, you get the ambiance, or you're kind of paying for the environment to some extent. And I just don't really get any value from that whatsoever. Like, I feel like most of the time, like, I just don't care about the ambiance unless it's something specifically geared towards me to the point where it almost makes up for the quality of the food, and which is really rare. Like, the only example I could think of where I cared about the ambiance so much that the not that great food was almost unimportant is the Capcom bar in Japan. Like,
okay, I was close. I thought that you were going to say the robot restaurant in Japan.
Oh, well, I haven't been there yet.
They're within walking distance of each other, right?
Yeah, we down the street from one another. Yeah,
we went to the outside of it. But I'm sure if I've been there, like, that would also be on there. But like, for example, like the Capcom bar, the food it's definitely on the pricier side. It's par for the course for, you get your $20 burgers, your more expensive drinks. Like, a small plate of nachos will be way more than what you would expect. But like, if you're a fan of Capcom games, like if you order like a steak with bone through it, like the Monster Hunter steak, it's not that great, but the whole, like, literally they'll stop like the music and everything. They'll stop everybody in the restaurant. As soon as they give it to you, they'll play that music of cooking steak in Monster Hunter on the loudspeaker for the whole place. And then when it's done, they'll say the words or oh yeah, like, oh yummy or whatever, but in Japanese. That comes out after that. Like, or, when they give you, like, my brother ordered a Ryu drink. It was like some kind of vodka concoction, but it had like a giant ice ball that looked electrical because it was like Ryu's like Shinku Hadouken with the electricity power up from Street Fighter V. And when they gave it to him, server literally did like the full Shinku Hadouken motion.
Plus the guy actually does he will say it like they do in the
they do in the game. Yeah,
that guy's dedicated. I don't think I can do that. Like, if there was a Capcom bar here and that was a server and people were ordering drinks called the Hadouken, I don't think I can go Hadouken like the entire day. That guy,
he didn't, by the way, go Hadouken the entire day, I don't think, because when I went to the Capcom bar on a different trip, separate from Angel, with a different friend, and we ordered that, they just brought it over like it was a normal drink.
I think it might have to do with like the energy of the group, because like when the first time I went,
we went six people deep.
Yeah, we were like 6 people deep. Like, I've been there like twice now, and both times like they pretty much like did that like nice presentation with the food, because like we were playing like one of the times that I went, like, we were literally like playing Street Fighter the whole time. Like, we made it apparent that we were like big fans of Capcom games. Like, we pretty much like ordered like one of everything from the menu because we wanted to try the Resident Evil syringe drink, the freaking fire nachos from Ken or whatever. So like, and some of the stuff, like, there was even one drink, it was like themed after Birdie from Street Fighter V that I think everyone agreed like didn't taste that great. I don't even think we finished it. There was some stuff that I don't even think we finished just because it didn't taste that great. But the experience, I felt, was like what you went there for. Like, you didn't go there for the food, but here in LA, or most of the time that we go out to eat, we're going there for the food. It's like supposedly the best sandwich in LA, the best pastrami, the best so-and-so whatever, or like amazing pizza, like Milo whatever. I forgot the name of the place, but we went there. Another one of like the last places we went to after before COVID, or some like Italian restaurant. All of those, I feel, yeah, the food was good, but I still wasn't, like, I felt gypped. Like, I felt like I wasn't satisfied with how much I spent on it. Like, I felt like I just didn't feel worth it. And I know that's, like, extremely subjective. Other people, like, might scoff at, say, like, oh, I would never pay for, like, a hamburger, like, you know, like, go to, like, Carl's Jr. or any of these other restaurants. But, I don't know. I feel like I can appreciate both, like, if a sandwich is really good, like I think there's a few examples like Cantor's, or I forgot the name of the other one that had a pastrami sandwich.
Langer's.
Langers, that was just like...
Also, to throw in the mix, Greenblatt's on Sunset Boulevard, really good pastrami, really good rye bread, actually.
That was just, like, that pastrami sandwich from Cantor's, I think, was, like, really good. That I'm like, you know what, like, I really like this. I actually felt like it was worth the price. Like, I would pay $20+ for this or whatever.
It was not, it's like 12, dude.
And you ate inside Cantor's, right?
Yeah.
So, But now, like, ordering that outside is like, does that make it still feel worth it? And, like, that one, I don't think it was $20. I don't remember how much it was, but...
It's like 12.
Some of those...
pastrami's like 12.
Yeah, but like considering I kind of ignore ambiance, like I literally put the value of the whole meal onto that food. So if I take away the restaurant, I feel like more people are now potentially in my shoes. Like they might see it not as worth it as before, but I'm kind of curious, like where you guys stand. Like, do you guys kind of factor everything into the meal, or are you guys ever like this was good, but it was too expensive, or you're just like, I don't really care how much it costs because I know I'm going to be paying a lot anyway, so you don't even think about it. I mean, I don't know. I feel like everyone is kind of different on this. And some people can get a little elitist on it, but I don't know.
No, you can lead. I sort of, well, I guess I'm going. I, to a degree, if I know that we're gonna, because we have some bougie tastes in our friend circle.
Yes.
If we're gonna go out somewhere, I already know that we're gonna spend a lot of money, so the ambience probably doesn't do anything. I guess the only time that the actual ambiance will matter to me is for like Korean barbecue, where you physically have to interact with the restaurants to a degree. And then, you know, just having a nice place to eat is fine too. But yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know, because I'm definitely prejudiced towards it, because I know like even before we go in, like I'm already like dreading like it's gonna be like a big, like it's gonna cost a lot. Plus, you know,
especially if it's a place that does tapas style. I can't stand that. I'm already
what's tapas?
The little like shareable
the little
plates.
meals for, it's like we're gonna give you 8 things to eat, but it's only gonna be like a bite of each thing.
Yeah, see that too.
I think in general I value experiences highly. I'm the guy who everyone's like, oh, movies are gonna be now something you watch at home, okay, and I'm like, what? But the experience of like going to the theater and like getting a bag of popcorn and like that's part of it, and that's worth like $16, and everyone else is like, what? It's just on HBO Max, just watch it. Like I'm already in the mindset I prefer experiences and like kind of atmosphere and everything, so I do lean more towards liking the everything going on around the meal. But it is interesting because I obviously am now doing takeout and not eating in restaurants. And first of all, the food quality takes a hit right off the bat, because if you're getting takeout or delivery and it has to be put in a container and taken somewhere, it is sitting there in its heat and its steam and its whatever. And the food you get is not the same as when you get it in the restaurant the second it's made. So already off the bat, it's not at all a fair comparison. And some stuff fares better than others. Like sushi, I know Kevin, you had a sushi craving the other day. It travels pretty well.
Man.
I feel like it travels pretty well. Sushi. Like I was surprised. I live, my apartment's pretty close to Sawtell, like the main drag of like Japanese food for LA basically. And I didn't expect, but was surprised that udon and ramen actually travel surprisingly decently, as long as you don't let it slosh around too much. So like some of those, it's like not, it is what it is, but there's definitely some food that takes a hit. Having the atmosphere removed does make me more conscious of the quality of the food for the price. Cause like, I think I mentioned on the show a couple Quarantine Chronicles ago that, I was doing like this fried chicken sandwich challenge of sorts, of like trying all the different fried chicken sandwiches around LA. And truthfully, Popeyes at $6 is better than some of the $14 ones. There's a place called Crack Shack I tried for the first time yesterday, which is crack like crack an egg. And they do chicken sandwiches and breakfast sandwiches and stuff, and they were quite good, but they're also like 2.5 times the price of Popeyes. And so that's the closest I've ever come, Angel, I think, to what you're describing about like there's just some you prefer taste-wise, because normally I'd go into Crack Shack, I would imagine. I'd order there, I'd sit down, they have this atmosphere, they have chicken puns everywhere, so already I'm sold. And, that'd be like the experience. It's like, oh yeah, well this is like a whole thing, and it's like $40, and they have like beer on tap and all this stuff, and they have to pay for all this, and party experiences, the sandwich is a little more. But with that removed, I am just looking at, Popeyes was the better sandwich that was delivered that I picked up in the same way I picked this $14 one up. So my perspective has changed a little, but I do very much like the atmosphere. Yeah, but I do really like atmosphere and like going to a thing. It's like an event, and like I like tapas a lot. Actually, I know you don't come, but I like it a lot because you get to try a bunch of different things, and you're doing it like this kind of like you're all hanging out together and trying the different things, and it's a way to like sample things I maybe never had before and know if I want to order them. As
nah, man, fuck that. Sure. Especially when we'll like get something and it's really good, and everything else does not compare to it. It was like, well, damn, I wish I could have just had a meal of that other thing.
That's true. Yeah, and it's like there's definitely that. I think to me it goes back to experiencing things, because I'm like experiencing all these different things versus just being like, I want to eat a thing, just give me a thing. It's like, oh well, it's like a whole event kind of.
Yeah,
I like
kind of the thing
events
too, because like I think that statement alone, like I want the thing, give me the thing, like kind of says a lot about I guess the type of people that I guess would appreciate restaurants more. Because there's been very few times, I can't even think of an example off the top of my head, where we've gone to a restaurant where I wasn't already hungry. Because I feel like part of the thing that makes me just kind of have a prejudice or just kind of puts me in a bad mood towards restaurants is just the longer wait times. Like, when you go to most typical, I guess, faster restaurants, I mean, they don't necessarily can be considered, Chick-fil-A, Habit, In-N-Out, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. You typically get your food, like the whole thing is like 30 minutes or less. Like the whole, like getting there, getting the food, like it could be that fast or faster. But then, like, I feel like most of the time when we're like, oh, let's go get somewhere to eat, it's around the time that we're starting to get hungry. We get to the place. Sometimes we have to wait just to be seated. And then we're seated. And then we have to like wait a lot longer for the server to come. And then they're like, okay, we'll give you some more time. And then we get some more time. And then they finally take our order. And then that takes like another 15 to 20, sometimes like 40 minutes, depending on where we are. Mm-hmm. And by that time, it's like, I'm just so hungry that sometimes it doesn't fill me up, or like, it's just, I feel it just doesn't help its cause, because, I'm like even paying less attention to the ambiance because I just want to eat it. And then it's like, oh, it costs this much to pretty much.
So that's not even a yum to buck ratio. That's an immediacy to something, right? Like that's about like the speed. It almost sounds like on some level. Like if you could get let's say,
I would assume that the food tastes like worse at that point, considering that you just spent an hour or more starving.
Yeah,
this overpriced.
Because sometimes it's like from the moment you enter the restaurant to the moment you eat could be like 40 minutes to an hour later, like on average. And that's most places. But yeah.
But see, that's why like at those restaurants, like you get a drink, they bring you bread, you kind of pace it. Like it's again the experience.
But that's kind of like annoying too, because if I'm really hungry, like sometimes they will give you infinite bread or whatever. But then you don't want to fill up on that, because then you won't even really get to finish your food. It kind of feels like a lose-lose situation in my eyes. But right. I would have to go, like, it would really have to be planned out, like, oh, let's go eat somewhere, but we have to, like, pace it out, like, go when we're not, like, already hungry. Like, I don't know. It feels tricky, but yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely, I think it's definitely more than just how it tastes for the price. It sounds like it's about the immediacy and
it's everything. It's literally the experience, like, everything.
Yeah.
Like, and you don't really deal with that. That's why it's like, I mean, for all I know, people may like that. That could be part of the experience that they're also paying for, like the anticipation.
Yeah, I mean that's where Jason's at.
Yeah, no, that is where I'm at. It's not so much like the anticipation. Like, if they brought me the steak 10 minutes earlier, I'd be like, cool, I can wait 10 minutes less. But like going with a group and like you're hanging out or you're whatever, and you have drinks and you have your food, and I guess it's just in my mind, which is obviously my opinion, it's more about you're paying for the whole encompassing thing. And I know in some cases,
keep in mind, like most of the time when we go like to these restaurants, we are in a big group. Like, I mean, like sometimes like both of you are there.
Yep.
So you think like, oh well, like time could pass by fast because you're literally with a group of like 5-6 friends. But like sometimes when I'm hungry, like I just kind of can't really think about anything else except like, oh god, like, where's the damn food? So
right. But I do think, of course. To go back to your earlier point, it also depends on setting. But it also depends on setting, because like when we had our Disney passes, when Disneyland still offered annual passes, RIP annual pass, we go get lobster nachos at Cove Bar all the time.
People have to get a personality now.
What? I know, yes. Yeah, exactly. Sorry, folks, you can't just have that magnet on the back of your car, and you have more than that in your life now. But yeah, like the lobster nachos.
Like, that's why, like, I'm sure, like, if we had more like specifically themed restaurants, like I don't even remember how long. Like it probably took a while to get all our food at the Capcom bar, but
it did.
There was just so much like eye candy that like specifically appealed like to us or to me that it didn't really feel like I waited that long. Or, like at Disney, like you're kind of at Disneyland, you're just distracted by everything. So, it's extremely subjective. And, but I feel like in general, that's just kind of like my view on restaurants versus, I guess, fast food. Or just, just price ranges. I guess you could just call it price ranges. Because there are some, like when you go to that one farm, it's not something market, where it's just like a bunch of different places in downtown.
Farmers market? No, you're talking about
Boston? I don't know.
No, Boston Market's you're talking about Grand Central Market.
in downtown LA.
Yeah.
Yeah, Grand Central Market. Yeah.
There you go, Grand Central Market. Like, a lot of those, like, are on the more expensive end, but you get your food sometimes almost right away because you're just in line and you order it and they just give it to you. Like, I mean, those I feel I'm more favorable towards those than, like, the other sit-downs. Because,
what's interesting about those is, to me, almost that's where the money becomes more of a thing because, like, they have a grilled cheese place called DTLA Cheese or something like that. That makes really good grilled cheese, but I have to sit there and be like, do I want to spend double-digit numbers on grilled cheese? But then other stuff like Wexler's, which is a deli there, is priced more moderately. So because you're removing some of that experience, then the pricing really does come to the forefront the same way right now. You delivery or pickup it does. So it's for me at least, it's very interesting to see, like, I could so clearly see where it splits between you're doing a thing versus you're just eating food. And then what that looks
but
like
there's also a big spectrum. And, like, going back to that place, like, I had a peanut butter jelly sandwich, and I think the peanut butter was, like, almond butter. I forgot what it was, but it was, like, $10 or something for, like, a peanut butter sandwich. And
it was almond butter, yeah.
And I remember, like, I know I like almond butter because I've had almond butter before that I've liked. But that one in particular, I just didn't like it. Like, I'm not, like, in my head, I'm not, like, I literally get way more enjoyment out of a Smucker's. That's, like, $1 or something.
I think we all called you crazy when you didn't enjoy that peanut butter jelly sandwich.
Yeah, and then and I think my brother ate it or someone ate it, but yeah, like, but that's just, like, obviously personal taste. Like, we're all different in that sense, but it is what it is.
I guess at this point I can take or leave the restaurant. That being said, the fact that I haven't been inside a restaurant I'm pretty sure I didn't go to any restaurant in January. I do miss going to it. I'm sure once restaurants open up, in 17 years, once America is finally done with COVID, I probably still won't go to restaurants as frequently as I used to, but it's going to be nice to finally have the option again.
Yeah, I miss it.
I wonder if my views will change having not been there in a long time, and maybe, I don't know, but we'll see. But that's
I definitely
like Angel was saying, or as Jason was saying, I was having a huge sushi craving, and sushi, like, it doesn't matter, it could get delivered, that's fine. I don't need to be at a revolving sushi bar. That being said, I absolutely miss going to that revolving sushi bar in Little Tokyo, just to sit down, not even for the experience of having a conveyor belt wrap around the entire restaurant. I guess at this point it's just like, I'm so sick of being at home. maybe it's just that at this point.
If you want,
I think we're all kind of sick of being
if you want to really put to test how you feel about an experience versus a food quality, there's a once things open again in the Wilshire Grand in downtown LA, like the tallest building downtown LA for those not in LA. They have a revolving sushi bar on the 68th floor, and the revolving bar goes against the window. Like the conveyor belt's along the window, so you're facing out, looking at all of LA, and then the sushi just kind of slots by in front of you. And it's a little pricier. It's all you can eat though, and part of the all you can eat price includes a free cocktail, like a house cocktail that they make. It's some orange juice thing. So
that sounds
it's
awesome.
pretty cool.
Can't wait to go in 17
It's pretty
years.
cool, but one thing I noticed when I went there, like before, so like in February sometime, is that I bet you the conveyor belt sushi place in Little Tokyo has better sushi. Like the sushi was fine. I was paying more for everything that came with it, but that's like the prime example of experience versus food, or yum to buck right there, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It is good though. It is good. It's just like for the price, you're definitely paying for the fact that you're on the 68th floor of the tallest building west of the Mississippi, facing outward, the sushi coming under your nose. Like, it's very, you're paying for that.
Okay. Yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah. So that'd be a real test. Once everything's open in 17 years, let's all go and we'll do a final analysis.
Yeah.
That won't be interesting.
I guess let's get into it. Once everything opens because of COVID, time for the bi-weekly COVID update. Jason, jingle, please. You get 2 weeks.
I know.
You get 2 weeks for the last 3 episodes you've gotten 2 weeks.
I know. Vaccination sites are open. There you go.
Hey, there we go. So,
on this specific jingle,
in between...
that's not always applicable.
Positive. Well, remember last time you guys said it was super depressing, so I tried to think of a positive one. Because I think I said last time we were all going to die. That's a good point. So,
Yeah. So, as Jason pointed out,
vaccination sites are open.
Vaccination sites.
There you go. I know you're so captivated by my angelic voice. I get it.
So vaccination sites have now opened. Dodger Stadium,
Yes.
I think, finally
Yes.
opened as a place.
As did the Forum.
Has Disneyland opened
Disneyland,
yet?
I believe, is open. But it's to be clear, because they made national news that you can go get a vaccine at Disneyland. You can't. It's not like on Main Street that Mickey Mouse is like putting a syringe in your arm. It's in the Toy Story parking lot. So you're still in a car, you're still driving up, but they're using the parking structure. So
And the mascot characters are not.
Did
giving
people
it to you?
did people think that they were going to go through like It's a Wonderful World?
I dreamed
Oh, the
that
small
I'd be
world
on
that they
their
stopped the
vaccines
ride.
on the
I
on the
dreamed
boat.
that I'd be on Dumbo, the little spinning Dumbo, and it would lower. And when you hit the bottom part, there's someone with a needle that just jabs your arm before you go back up, and then you just kind of, do a little ride, and then you leave. That was my dream. Dumbo was also my favorite ride when I was a toddler.
That's not a bad dream.
Thank you. It's not the best dream, but it's not a bad dream.
What ride would you get your vaccination on?
These days?
Wouldn't the
Oh,
most efficient
Matterhorn
one be
from
like
the Yeti.
the
Sure.
Incredicoaster, like right before you go up the loop-de-loop, just so, like kind of mix it well in your body? I know that's not how it works, but...
So it shakes you up.
Yeah, I hands down Matterhorn, and I want the Yeti that they removed to come back and be the one that does it. Just a guy in a Yeti costume.
I haven't been to Disneyland in, at this point, oh man.
Man, the new
It
Matterhorn
almost
is
feels
pretty
like
good.
20 years.
Definitely.
I would want to get on the teacups while the teacups are spinning. Just to test out.
There
It
you
would
go.
certainly...
Just to absolutely test out the doctor or the volunteer injecting.
It would 100% distract from the slight needle prick that you'd feel because you'd be so dizzy already, presumably. So,
Yeah.
so there is that. It'd be a good distraction. Like Matterhorn, I'd still definitely feel
Yeah.
it. I'd just be like, oh, a Yeti, but you'd still feel it. But yeah, teacup, you wouldn't feel it. I feel like Toy Story Mania, if you're like shooting the gun and then they just jab you while you're shooting, you wouldn't feel it, or you'd be too distracted to care.
Yeah, first place gets it first.
Yeah. First place gets both doses. Everyone else, you have to fight to the death for the second dose.
Wow. That makes sense.
Yeah. Disney, are you taking notes on this? Bob, whichever Bob is now whichever one's in charge now, it's not Iger. The other Bob, are you listening? Gotta make this happen.
Yeah, so aside from the vaccination sites, we inaugurated a new president.
We did.
And it seems to me like this one's actually going to try and at least curb the crisis. He's asking all Americans to wear a mask for 100 days, but if like this last year has been any indication, America is a stubborn nation, and if you weren't wearing a mask already, I doubt when you're president that doesn't align with your political party is going to be the one to convince you to wear a mask.
That said, though,
and it's not mandated either, right?
federally and in between states. So if you go on anything that moves you from one state to another, you have to, and if you are on any federal ground, you have to, because that's the only power he really has. He can't
I
mandate
don't know if you
on
saw,
state
but
levels.
after the inauguration, millions of fans were like really annoyed and pissed off that there wasn't a Smash reveal at the end of it. But I guess we can't have everything.
I thought it was Bernie. I thought it was Bernie and Zmins. He wasn't the Smash. He wasn't the Smash.
He
Smash.
practically became a new character. Like that meme just like blew up so hard. It's like literally everywhere.
Yeah.
Bernie feels the burn would be his little challenger slogan thing when he joined Smash. Yeah.
I think it would have to be Sanders feels the burn.
Yeah, that's true. Spelled BERN, of course.
On a more personal level, I got the COVID, and apparently so does everybody in this household. So it's just a nest of Rona.
And you guys took precautions, right? Like it just shows how pervasive it can be.
Yeah, it's crazy. So like 20 years in the future, this house is going to look like that hospital in The Last of Us 2. Angel, where the infection started. Yeah, that's what this house is going to look like.
Everyone's doing okay. You're doing okay.
Yeah. Don't worry, my family is showing very minor symptoms. Thank you for the worry, but yeah, we're all doing really good right now. We're fighters around here, so I'm like 95% sure that we will kick this thing in the ass.
Cool. Good.
The other 5% is just uncertainty with I think if you are 99% sure of something, maybe within the years of 2000 to 2019, you could say that, but like 2020 and now 2021, you got to knock that down.
Oh yeah, yeah. When you think everything's going a certain way, just these 2 years have make it very easy to turn it on its head.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. This decade sucks.
But yeah,
that's the takeaway.
Yeah. So far it has been great. Yeah. So that was your COVID update, and now we can actually move on to the actual episode. Jesus, 40 minutes in.
I feel like. Well, it's funny because we did talk about things we did in quarantine, like eating and how we go about eating has drastically changed. So it is fitting. I'd say it was on topic.
So would you say it's all uphill from here? Downhill from here?
In terms of what? The episode?
I would say uphill because it is going to be a struggle. I guess if we're
talking about life or this
thinking
episode?
about it in the literal sense, sure.
Yeah, I'm talking
about
about like
life?
the global state.
I thought you meant this episode. I'm like, why would you say it's uphill?
No.
Everyone's going to turn it off.
No. I mean, pretty much like after the COVID update, like, is it all uphill or downhill for you, or do you feel it is for everybody?
It's uphill, but I think we're in a position where we can get there.
I like that.
That's
like, especially like even stuff like, so I just
it's not very steep, but it is uphill.
No, it's steep, but we just, if we put our minds to it, because like I just heard the other day, so apparently one of the things that the new president is doing is he's doing the Defense Act. He's enacting it to get them to make these syringes in mass that can get an extra dose out of each vial of the vaccine. So instead of 5 per bottle, it could be 6. That's a 20% increase without actually producing any more vaccine. So like stuff like that gives me hope that we will get there. It just will take a little time. I don't have another pun to counter that with. I was trying to think of one.
I love the optimism, Jason. I'm about to knock us down a little bit. So I think it's finally time for me to talk about Cyberpunk 2077.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good counterbalance for optimism.
I don't want to hear about this.
The perfect counterbalance, really.
So if you listener listen, and I'm sure you listen to Random Nintendo, you guys would know that this was probably one of my most anticipated games, I think, of all time, honestly. I was drinking the Kool-Aid that CD Projekt Red was like serving me. They were talking about how it's going to be a very mechanics-heavy RPG where your decisions are going to matter and branch out to different scenarios with, like, awesome writing. And then the world just seemed really cool. And since the game came out in, I think, what was it, early December?
Yeah, I think the 11th, ultimately, or something?
Yeah, somewhere around there. Yeah.
Or like the 9th?
I've only put 40 hours into the game. And I honestly think I'm done. I don't think that I'm going to finish this game.
Really? Like Tsushima? But not on a more positive way, I guess? Because you said you were just satisfied. You felt you didn't really need to go on. It wasn't that you were bored, right? Or were you bored, I guess?
Yeah, I felt like that first act of Tsushima could have been its own game.
And there we go.
Like, I was satisfied with the conclusion of that. This is like much different. This is just I guess apathy. Is that the right word?
Sounds like
I'm not sure. Yeah. So for those who don't know, and honestly, if you listen to RN or even this podcast, I'm going to guess that you know what this game is all about.
Keanu Reeves.
You play as V. We'll get to Keanu Reeves. So you play as V, just the letter V, or the Roman numeral V, whichever one's tickles your fancy.
Wait, you can't make up your own name?
Nope, you are V.
I am really surprised you can't. Huh.
Angel, like that.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, considering it's a RPG, yeah, okay, never mind.
Because you make your own character. It's not like
that's
The Witcher, where you play as Geralt of Rivia or whatever.
Right. Okay. So let me get into that. I was under the impression, and apparently so were you and Jason for that matter, that you were going to make your own unique character with like their own unique style, and that doesn't ever really happen. I mean, you can customize V's appearance in the beginning, but you can't really change their voice. So there's a male voice and a female voice, and that's it. You can't change how, you know how in RPG, if you make a custom character, you usually have like, I don't know, a couple of choices between if you want like a more, I guess,
high pitch or low pitch,
for lack of a better word, like masculine. Yeah, exactly. Not here. So like whatever. So from there,
you change the size of your junk.
Wait, what happened?
Yes.
No, I remember like and let you could customize like your reproductive organs of both sides to further extent.
Oh yeah.
And they glitch out and like, show outside the clothes.
Oh yeah, we will get to that. So once you customize your appearance, you get to choose from like 1 to 3 backgrounds with, being a V who was born and raised on the streets of Night City, being a V who was born like on the outskirts, who's just dreams about getting to Night City, or a V who starts out like as a corporate slave. And that basically amounts to like a small, I don't know, 20 to 30 minute intro that just funnels into the same prologue. And I don't know, CD Projekt Red really made it seem like this backstory of yours is going to play a huge part into the game. And it just doesn't. Aside from that, on the customization stuff, your character will often look like an idiot. And that's because there's no transmog option. So instead of wearing the cool clothes that you'll find, like, I just wanted my V to be in a blazer with like a good shirt, some nice dress pants, and some nice shoes. No, I'm usually wearing some bright orange jacket that I found from some jackass, like in an alleyway. And I just look like an idiot. And because everything has stats in this game, because it's an RPG, obviously you want to go with the
equipment that will give you better
piece that has better stats.
So it's one of those.
Yeah.
You've seen those videos where it's like me in an RPG cutscene.
You can't customize any vehicles. All the vehicles have their own stats, but you can't even really see the stats. So you don't know if the car that you just spent all your money on is going to drive like crap, which, spoiler alert, the driving in this game sucks. Like, one of the very first mods for this game to come out, I'm playing on PC, by the way. One of the very first mods that came out for this game was to actually fix the driving, which is like, oh boy, I don't know how that kind of sucks for the devs. Yeah. So the RPG-ness of it is very, very disappointing. I won't spoil exactly what happens in the story, but after you do that prologue, at the end of the prologue, not the backstory. Not the first 20-minute intro. Once you're finished with one of those 3 backgrounds, you do a bunch of little missions that leads into this one large mission. And I guess this is public information, but like one job goes terribly wrong, and then the game is all about V trying to survive because he's going to die in a couple weeks, and the rest of the game is you trying to figure out how like not to die. And like that prologue is fun, but if you do a side quest or 2 while in the prologue section, you've kind of seen the rest of the game. And let me talk about the city real quick, because Night City is pretty cool. If you've seen Blade Runner or Blade Runner, what was the sequel called?
I was going to say Blade Runner 2.
2049?
Yeah.
With a
and
0
a 4
and a 9.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I do love that aesthetic. Yeah.
Yeah. The aesthetic is awesome. Like, there's huge buildings with huge neon lights that are advertisements anywhere. There's a neat variety of like different districts that each have a distinct feel to them. You know, you got the main city, you have the outskirts that you can go, you got the industrial part of Night City. You know, there's I think it's called Little Kabuki, which is its own version of Little Tokyo. Night City, especially in the night, looks awesome. If you have a beefy enough PC to make this game look nice, it's gonna look very, very nice. But like I said, it's almost, what's that expression? It's like skin deep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then especially after the prologue, you've kind of, like I said, you've kind of seen everything that there is, especially if you do a side quest or 2. And the side quests are so disappointing, because the side quests are absolutes in that they're either super lame or super cool. There's absolutely no in between. And there's a lot more super lame side quests than there are super cool ones.
That's unfortunate.
The super cool ones are usually, I guess, character driven. Like, the supporting cast in this game is great, and I think that's one of the places where it excels at. The supporting cast in this game are written extremely well, and the arcs that you go through are awesome. I would almost rather this game be a story of you helping out people instead of you trying to figure out how not to die in a couple of weeks. So those are cool, but then there are other monotonous ones where, like, you'll be chasing down self-driving cars that have gone berserk, or taking down cyber psychos who are people who have just had way too many body modifications and messing with their brain. I don't know, it's just, I'm not really into the main story. I guess I'll get into it. Keanu Reeves is the reason that you're going to die. Cause Keanu Reeves is like on this little chip that's implanted in your neck, and his personality is slowly taking over V's. Keanu Reeves is woefully miscast.
Yeah, I was like, that's interesting.
Oh man.
Really? He does
but you know what? It allowed for that moment where he called me and everyone else in that Microsoft Theater beautiful. So it's breathtaking. You're right. How did I even get that wrong?
Don't get twisted.
Yeah.
That is unfortunately the best part. That's the best thing that's come out of Cyberpunk 2077. Angel, you've played the Fallout games, right?
I've watched my brother play most of them, or at least like.
Okay, this game is just a Fallout game. Honestly, if you have seen how those games, their gunplay especially feels like, then you'll know how this one plays. It's very sluggish.
So there's a lot of time.
I guess what sets it apart
from picking the body part you want to shoot.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, really?
Except you're not freezing time to shoot a body part. You're slowing down time so that you can use what are called quick hacks, where you press a button or a key, and then time slows down, and you'll zoom into an enemy, and then you'll have a little list of hacks that you can do. So like, you'll press a button, and then you can hack items or enemies near you. And I like to play the game stealthy, and the stealth isn't great in this game, honestly. So like, what I would do is I would hack nearby vending machines to distract enemies and have them go to that vending machine, and they'll do the like, huh? And then I'll go back. I'll go to them and knock them out from behind. You can like hack enemies so that they go blind temporarily, or like You can make them forget that they even saw you because everything's connected through the net. But it just gets repetitive after like the 100th time that you do it. And it's really cool when like you blind someone and run up to them with an aluminum baseball bat and just beat the crap out of them. But like I said, that's can only get, it just gets boring. There are just so many facets of this game that I just haven't even touched because the game doesn't do a good enough job to make me care for those mechanics. There's a crafting mechanic that I have not touched in the 40 hours of this game that I've played. There are missions that you can do for the Night City Police Department, but the game literally just tells you, hey, you can help them out if you want. And like I helped him once and I got some XP and some money and that was it. There's no like reputation slider or like morality system in like a Fallout or Infamous. So I just completely don't even do those police missions.
How does the game, you're playing on PC, right? So have you run into any of the like performance issues or on a technical level, like even if the game's not moving to play, is it at least functional on current gen system or last gen systems, I guess they now are?
So I've been lucky enough to not encounter too many bugs. And the worst one that I got was I was riding down the street in my motorcycle and all of a sudden V was T-posing on the motorcycle.
Oh, like doing a trick.
But
Evel Knievel.
He wasn't wearing any pants or boxers. So his dong was just hanging out and his ass cheeks were just flowing in the wind.
So it sounds like it's more hilarious.
It was for like, yeah. And I'm not one of those guys to be like, oh, my immersion's ruined. But at the same time, it's like, this game has been in development for quite a while. And like, this got past QA.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's like a Bloomberg report from Jason Schreier, I guess, about like how long it's been in development.
Jason Schreier, yeah.
Apparently it's only been in development for like 3 years. They announced it a long time ago and then just kind of sat on it. And like, well, we did The Witcher. We made that work at the last second. We'll make this work. And obviously they didn't. But
yeah,
they put out a video.
That's how a lot of how the studios run nowadays.
Yeah, Anthem went through the same struggle.
Yeah, they put out a video recently, kind of not really saying exactly what happened, but didn't they say that like, oh, we decided to create the city this way. We seemed like a good idea at first, but then it later on brought on all these challenges that, kind of spiraled into this. Because, they still decided to release the game when they did, which...
Yeah, and they said that, and they're like, plus, like, we optimized it for next-gen systems, then we tried to, port it to current gen, and COVID happened, and we all had to work from home and adapt to that, and it was basically this...
Oh, they didn't try.
I know, yeah, but that's, like, I think this whole thing where it's like, listen, like, we tried a thing, it didn't work, and then we just, like, tried to make it work within those confines, and then we just gave up and released it, so sorry. It's just like, well, maybe, like, I don't know, I felt like they were making excuses still. Like, it was nice that they owned up and said, yeah, we screwed up, but they didn't really say we screwed up, like, we screwed up because COVID, because new systems, because, it's just like, well... Just say, then don't release it yet. Like, I know your money's riding on it, but if you have PlayStation and Xbox, well, if PlayStation pulls it off their store completely, if Xbox puts a disclaimer on its listing, if every retailer says they'll do refunds beyond their regular return period, the game should not have been shipped yet. Like, it's simple as that.
It's funny because they released the game because they were afraid of their shareholders like rioting, and they released the game broken, and now their shareholders are suing CD Projekt Red.
And meanwhile, they eroded so much trust with their fan base,
so much goodwill,
years of goodwill. Like and they can get it back.
It's insane.
You can get it back. It'll take time, but like any company can get back. I mean, on the flip side of that, you had Microsoft just yesterday double the price of Xbox Live and in the same day drop the price back down and make Xbox Live Gold no longer required for free-to-play games, all because of fan reaction. So, like, you can make goodwill back and then do a little more to, like, really seal that you made a mistake. I feel like they're still not doing that with this. Like, I get the impression I see Project Red trying to, like, kind of coast through the current situation and then, like, hopefully fans will come around. But, I don't know.
So I'm guessing you didn't keep your Xbox One Cyberpunk edition, or did you sell that in time?
Oh,
because didn't you have an Xbox One Cyberpunk edition, Kevin, or something like that?
Oh yeah, that's just my like media center at this point. Yeah, I guess I haven't really played the game on Xbox One, but I don't see any point on playing it on a last-gen console for that matter.
I guess you could sell it, but it probably wouldn't be worth as much.
Oh no, it's just my media center at this point. I got a nice little remote for it. That, man, technology is awesome. Whenever I turn on my Xbox, it turns on my my TV. Oh,
dude, that was one of the most.
Who knew that was?
That was one of the coolest things when I got the TV and like put the switch in the Apple TV in it, and whatever device I turn on, it turns on the TV. It's on the correct input. It does it by itself. I realize HDMI pass through is not that new, but for me, it's new, and it's so amazing.
Yeah.
And like the TV also works with my phone, so there's literally a button on my control center on my iPhone where I could just turn off the TV. Like if in the off chance it doesn't turn off with everything else, like I have my phone's my TV remote now, which is really cool. Separate from the Apple TV, like just the actual TV. I could change the input of the TV using the phone. It's so cool.
Damn, those
like natively on the phone, not an app. Anyway, sorry, that was a tangent.
I mean, I could no, it's fine. But yeah, I don't know. So that was some of that was really the only big bug that I got on. But man, this game would also crash on me way too often. Maybe a crash every 5 to 6 hours. It doesn't seem like much, but
no, that sounds like really bad. Do you get what happens to your progress?
Yeah, I guess. The game autosaves plenty so that I won't lose that much progress. But there have been enough crashes where I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm just done with this session of the game. I'm just going to play something else at this point. I know that they just released their big 1.1 patch, which is supposed to fix a lot of bugs, but I think it's just a little too late for me. Had this game been well optimized, like during a launch, I think I could probably forgive some of its misgivings, but now it's just, I just don't care about it anymore. It's sad because it was a game that was hyped up by everybody and their mothers.
Mm-hmm. Especially the mothers.
For it to come out, for it to just be a competent game is a little disappointing, especially after everything that, CD Projekt Red promised. At this point, the behind-the-scenes drama is more interesting to me than the game, but I don't know. I guess that's for another podcast.
This is very much...
Damn, what is this?
I really hope...
Such a disappointment this game was.
I really hope... I mean, it might be too late for some of the early adopters, but I really hope they are able to turn it around, and maybe 2 years from now, it'll actually meet that requirement. I mean, just look at No Man's Sky. I mean, it took a while, but it has so much goodwill now. It's pretty much the game they promised and more. And in the beginning, everyone was disappointed. It was the biggest, oh, they didn't do anything. You can't even interact with people. It's so hopefully we can look back and be well, remember when it was like this? I mean, I don't know if The Witcher had this kind of problem. It seemed like it sounded like it did. Maybe just not.
I think it did. It did. Yeah.
But The Witcher was more on a technical level, it was sort of a mess. This is a mess mechanics wise. Well, it's not even a mess. It's just very, very standard. It's a very generic open world game, which I think is the most disappointing part of it.
Right.
Especially after, like I said, they promised branching story paths, which apparently there's multiple endings to this game, but man, I don't even care to get to one of them. Why would I care about the other ones?
They bit off more than they could chew. And unfortunately, the way that games as services go and the way that companies are comfortable releasing half-baked products is they can bite off more than they can chew, tell everyone they're chewing, or tell everyone they took that bite, release half of it, and then in 2 years, like they do with Angel's saying with No Man's Sky, they can fix it, and people are like, oh, well, 2 years later, sure. But those first 2 years, all those people that bought it, 13 million copies sold,
yeah, for those
they kind of get screwed.
I mean, even Nintendo started doing that with Splatoon and ARMS, and I mean, whatever they did,
it was super polished. Very polished. Yeah, what they had was polished.
But it was small. But those that waited until everything was done got a better package, and those that just stuck around with the beginning.
And see, something about that, and I would argue that's slightly different, because something about that is if Nintendo chooses to release a polished small thing and then build on top of it, that's one thing. What happened here and what happened in No Man's Sky is they released not what was promised. They literally gave you less than what they said, and it wasn't functional in Cyberpunk's case.
Yeah.
So it's a little different. It's one thing to sort of build up something, and then yes, you could either be along for the ride and it gets better with each update and each new gameplay thing, or you can wait till the end to get it all at once. But this one's you can't even it's not even getting better, because it's just they're trying to fix what's broken. They're just trying to meet the bare minimum they promised you. So yeah, I don't know. It's a weird thing. Basically, people are paying for betas as full retail packages with deluxe editions and Mountain Dew tie-ins. So it's weird.
Yeah. Well, I wish them the best of luck. I'm sure there were a lot of really hardworking people there that got the shorter end of, I guess, the higher ups that just decided to push it. But yeah.
And I was kind of dissing their video apology they did, but the one thing I think was really admirable is they said right at the start, this isn't our developers' fault. This was us, the management. We're responsible. Developers did what we told them to do. They did it well. We were the one that rushed it. We're the ones that did this, that, and that next thing. So that was nice to see. to see Project Red's cut.
Yeah, that was admirable.
Yeah, definitely.
So that was Cyberpunk.
What a journey.
Let's get into something a little more positive. Angel, you want to go with either of yours?
Yeah, so I watched a movie called Lupin III, the First recently. I've been looking forward to this film for quite a while, even though I'm not like a big, like, I guess, follower of the Lupin series, for those that don't even know what I'm talking about, because I know there is a show on Netflix called Lupin, which has nothing to do with this. Lupin III is something that has been going on since like the late 60s. It's an anime that follows like a Master Thief sort of character. He is like whimsical, it's like leans on like adventure and comedy, and he is kind of a jokester, but he is extremely athletic. He can solve any puzzle. He's extremely brilliant, but yeah, he just wants to steal treasure. And he's typically accompanied by like Eagle Eye, but with a gun. That's his character. At least like from what little I've seen, that's his arc. And Samurai with a sword that can cut through anything. And there's some other like recurring characters. Like there's like the main chief of police that just wants to capture him. It's like kind of like his goal, like anything. His life goal is to capture him, put him behind bars, basically, because he always just narrowly escapes his grasp. And there's like a femme fatale character that is pretty much just as cunning as Lupin, but they are always kind of butting heads because they're sometimes after the same thing. But the only thing of Lupin I've seen before this is the Castle of Cagliostro, which is a Miyazaki directed film before Studio Ghibli was a thing. So it's technically not considered a Studio Ghibli film, but it's sometimes bundled together with those. But that was fun. Like, it was a fun film, and this one is super fun as well. Like, if you like fun adventure movies like akin to Indiana Jones, then you'll definitely enjoy this. But what makes this movie a really big deal is the fact that it's like the first CG outing for this character. And for a character that's been around since the late 60s, that has had, this franchise is huge in Japan. Like, it's one of their like cornerstone franchises. And I think they did an awesome job of translating like, animation to, 2D animation to CG animation. Like, the character models they feel so spot on and true to, like, I guess the CG one, the 2D ones, that they're not really, I don't know. They're definitely stylized in the way, just compared to other CG films, but I don't know, they found a way to make, and this is something that I guess like Japan is starting to experiment more with lately, but they're making CG anime look really good, like almost to the point where I could see in a couple years from now, like more things is going in this direction. There are some more CG, primarily CG animated animes, like I guess becoming more popular. Like the one that comes to mind right now is Beastars. I haven't seen it, but I know it's like all CG animated and seems to have a pretty good reception. I think it's just the more realistic look of the world of Zootopia, if it wasn't made by Disney. But yeah, besides that, I felt like they stuck the landing on that. Literally, like, at the very least, I would recommend just watching a trailer for it, just because the animation style is, I don't know, they're doing a good...
Beastars or Lupin?
Oh, Lupin. Yeah, going back to Lupin, yeah, forgetting Beastars. I don't know, the way it's animated and the way these characters just move around is just so appealing to look at. Like, it really pushes away from the Pixar Disney style. And even Disney and Pixar feels like, at least in some of the movies they just announced and some of the brief little tidbits they showed, and even a lot of their more recent shorts, like, they're kind of pushing, like, they're kind of going away from their more grounded way that they animate things. And by that I mean things usually have more realistic physics. But yeah, it's just way more exaggerated. It's more cartoony, and I don't know, it just looks awesome. And you don't really have to know anything about Lupin except of what I literally just told you. I had only really seen that other film, The Castle of Cagliostro, before this, and I was able to enjoy it just as much. Like, everything introduced is pretty much new except for, those characters. And even the intro sequence, which this movie does have, during the opening credits, it kind of shows like the main cast, like in this flashy, very stylistic, kind of trippy looking.
That intro's awesome.
Yeah, like that intro, like it kind of gives you like a glimpse into like, all right, I kind of get like, oh, this guy is good with guns. This guy uses sword. This guy is always chasing Lupin. There's this woman that looks like she, I don't know, you get the gist of it. It's a pretty simple film, like plot wise. If anything, like it doesn't try to be complex. It could be pretty predictable, but it's just a really fun ride. And the set pieces, like, I don't know, it feels big budget. Like, it feels like something that would have been awesome to watch in a theater. And I don't know, sometimes it's just kind of fun just watching a movie where you have no, I guess, real attachment to the characters beforehand. Because, I don't know, I feel like this made me like a fan of Lupin, and I kind of want to check out some of the animes now, just because it's just a fun character to follow. And something I even learned recently that I thought was pretty interesting was that the film was actually animated by the same team that does the CG openings for the Sonic games. So say what you will about a lot of the Sonic the Hedgehog recent games, like they have really snazzy intros, like from Sonic Unleashed to Sonic Heroes to Sonic, well, not Sonic Heroes, I think it's Unleashed onward. I mean, Heroes is just really old. I don't know if they worked on that yet. But, you know, like, they're very, like, cinematic, and it's like, I almost want to see a whole Sonic movie animated this way. But, yeah, Lupin, definitely check it out. Or at the very least, check out a trailer. It's really fun, and it's cool. And it has a surprise appearance by a character that I didn't think we would ever see animated. And I won't spoil what it is, just because it's just kind of like they're actually going there. But, yeah, pretty interesting. And doesn't matter who you are, you might have that kind of reaction, but... Yeah, and yeah, that's Lupin.
Cool.
Quick and brief, but just really liked it. Definitely.
So, Angel, I have a question, because you mentioned that, like, you know, more and more are moving into the direction of CG, and anime is going that way. As someone who is an animation fan like you, does that bother you that 2D is being left behind pretty much in every variation of animation now, or are you kind of excited to see where they take it? Like, do you think there's do you think there's always room for 2D? I guess is the question.
I mean, I like that it's forcing 2D to go and, like, to find its own niche. Like, I don't know. It doesn't, I mean, at one point it did bother me because a lot of CG animation was starting to look samey. Like, it seemed like everyone was going with, like, the Pixar Disney style of animation. But kind of like with, ever since, like, I think Hotel Transylvania came out, and then, like, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, and, like, Sony and other studios started, like, to push, like, how characters move. Like, especially those that I mentioned right just now. Have a very, like, squashy, like, stretchy movement to them that you never really saw in CG animation before, and it was almost like, whoa, you could do this in this medium. Then you get movies like Spider-Verse that look and animate like nothing we had seen before. Then we have other movies coming out like The Mitchells versus the Machines coming out on Netflix, which was at one point called Connected, which was going to be in theaters.
Yeah, but
that's also made by the Spider-Verse team, and that mixes 2D and CG at points, and that one also looks great, just study style wise. I don't know what to look for the film, but I like that 2D is becoming more implemented into the way CG is animated. Because this film, like, feels like it was animated by 2D animators in CG. That's just kind of what it's feeling like. And the ones that, and the studios that are still animating in 2D have to push the envelope even more. I mean, it's been a while now since Klaus came out, but that movie, like, say what you will about the plot, like, it might not be the best movie. It's a good movie. I'll say it's a good movie, but it's not mind-blowing. But the visuals, holy shit. You would swear that movie is CG, but it's all 2D and it just looks beautiful. And, like, it's crazy. Like, literally, watch a trailer for Klaus and tell me that doesn't look amazing, knowing that that's all 2D animated. So it's cool just seeing, like, the medium getting, like, forced to push and go in a certain way. And, you know, you may see 2D and animated in television shows, and that's still happening. You are getting a lot of CG shows, but a lot of TV shows coming out are still 2D animated. I mean, just look at some 2020 shows like Close Enough, or there's like another show by the people that made Gumball coming out this year or next year that's 2D, but kind of mixes some weird elements.
Solar Opposites came out in 2020.
Right, and the new season of that starts next month, I think, or March or something.
Yeah, the only ones that have me kind of like, oh man, like, I hope this doesn't mean 2D is completely gone, is like studio specific, like specific studios changing their art style.
Like Ghibli doing their first 3D?
Yeah, like 2 weeks from now, we're going to get Earwig and the Witch. I don't think that's the full title, but like Studio Ghibli is known for their like breathtakingly beautiful 2D films that always feel like, oh man, like it kind of makes you remember like that you can have these breathtaking 2D landscapes and visuals, because not a lot of them do that. Or like the movie that I talked about, Princess Kaguya, like Jesus, like those look amazing. But you know, they're making a 3D film, and it visual wise, like it has the Ghibli aesthetic to it. Like the characters look like they came out from a Ghibli film. And you know, like I'm sure they had a hand in that Ni no Kuni and the Witch, because I mean that's a Ghibli CG animated venture video game. But I hope that doesn't completely replace their 2D films, because they still look great. I think their most recent one was The Wind Rises, and that one looked really great. Like it always felt like they're like pushing that 2D medium, but this one, it definitely feels like their first attempt at 3D. It doesn't look bad, but it doesn't look mind-blowing. I feel like Lupin looks better, and that's like one of the first like CG Japanese animated films I could think of, actually, that looks like that amazing. So Ghibli's like, you know, coming in second, and I feel like after a few films under their belt, like it could be, I'm expecting them to be able to push the CG medium in their own way like they did the 2D medium, but I hope they still produce 2D films. So that's the only case where I'm like, oh, I hope it's not completely replacing 2D.
Right.
Because, you know, I love all kind of animation. I mean, if anything, I feel like we need to see more stop motion. Like, the only real stop motion like fix I can get is this Twitter account that I follow that does these amazing short little stop motion videos with like figures that they just have, and most of the time it's like figures that I have. Like they'll have like little Mario figures or some, they animated like a Kirby figure, a Link figure, some stuff from Demon Slayer, and even some Evangelion stuff. And yeah, those are really, really, really good. But yeah, I mean, if Lupin is any indication, I feel like the CG animation in Japan is in good hands, at least the theatrical one. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I wonder if we'll see like a CG, I don't know, I guess like My Hero Academia film. Like I feel like if one of these studios took that in, like, damn, that would look amazing. I mean, and it'd be just constant good quality animation throughout the whole thing since...
Yeah, it probably looked good the entire time.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm so mad at that movie.
Yeah, you wouldn't have stuff like that because you just make one model and that's it. You don't have to redraw it over and over again, which is kind of an issue with anime. Or a lot of cartoons in general, or why you get a lot of not moving, basically. Just static talking.
But what was I gonna... Oh, what's the last 2D animated Disney movie? Was it The Princess and the Frog? Jesus Christ, that movie came out, what?
A long time ago.
2010?
Somewhere around there. I was going to say 9, but yeah, maybe 10.
Yeah, it's been a while.
I'm disappointed that Disney still hasn't put out any 2D stuff. Oh, no. Winnie the Pooh.
I think that was right before Princess and the Frog, wasn't it? Or was it after?
I think it might have been before. Because I remember Princess and the Frog being like, oh, Disney's like 2D swan song of sorts, but...
No. I think Winnie the Pooh came out afterwards.
Maybe.
Damn it, now I gotta
I'm looking
look this
up.
Maybe. I mean, Princess and the Frog was their first 2D movie in a long time.
2011.
You're right. I think Princess and the Frog was 2010?
Yeah, I think it was 2010.
Yeah, you're right.
As of 2021, it is Disney's most recent traditionally animated theatrical film. Okay, I guess that makes sense now because that movie kind of bombed.
Right.
Yeah, then they just,
yeah, Princess and the Frog was 2009. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because that was their first, look at this, we're bringing 2D back. And then they tried 2D again.
And then there it went again. Yep.
Oh, man, that sucks. Yeah. I've always liked the 2D stuff much better than the 3D stuff. Not counting Pixar. Pixar's... Actually, at this point, I guess you got it. Pixar used to be in their own league, and now, Sony Animation of all people are
I know,
killing it. Yeah, Sony's killing it.
I mean,
it's weird.
Sony is all over the place, because, they have a Spider-Verse 2 coming out, but then they also have Transylvania 4. Like, the way it's animated is amazing. Transylvania 3 especially, but, the plots maybe aren't that great. But they need to let Gendy Tartakovsky do his Popeye
strictly
movie
speaking, animation-wise.
Yeah, strictly speaking, like, they're definitely killing it. And Pixar...
Like, the Emoji movie probably sucks, but I can't deny that those trailers didn't look nice.
Yeah, I watched it, and production-wise, it was pretty good.
Remember when TJ Miller left Silicon Valley because he got a leading role in an Emoji movie and thought he was going to be the next big star? Just remember that moment?
Is that why he left?
I mean, it was not exactly, but it was in tandem. He left Silicon Valley. He had an Emoji movie coming out. His composition himself is like, I'm bigger than the show now, and where'd he go? So.
Oh man, TJ Miller was such a fall from grace.
Yeah, seriously.
Cloverfield is one of my favorite movies of all time.
I always forget he's in it.
He's the soul of that movie.
And every time someone says he's in it, I'm like, whoa, all over again. Every time. Yeah. I've heard it like 4 times probably, and I keep being like, oh yeah.
Yeah, he's the soul and heart of that movie, and the fact that he's such a, I guess, lovable character in that movie, and the fact that he turned out to be a huge dick in real life is really disappointing. Yeah. All right, cool. Lupin III, the First.
Great name.
Let's give Jason some time to talk. So, WandaVision.
Yeah, man. WandaVision
was finally released on Disney Plus. The first entry in Phase 4 of the MCU. This is our post-Endgame. I guess Spider-Man was the first post-Endgame thing.
But this is the first, this is the first Phase 4 thing specifically. And it's interesting because it's also the first Marvel thing that's been released. The first MCU project to be released in over a year, which is the longest gap, I think, since sometime in Phase 1, 2009 or 10 or something. That, we've had Marvel stuff, multiple Marvel things per year, and then we just went this long with that. So it's interesting that this is what comes back because it's so small scale in scope, at least as we're seeing it unfold right now, compared to, what Endgame was and what's, Far From Home was and what all those were. It's kind of an interesting contrast.
Right.
You're watching it too, though, right, Kevin?
Yeah, I'm watching it too.
How you feel about it?
Did you catch the 3rd episode?
Yeah.
We talked about this off the podcast. Okay.
Yeah.
Angel, you have no plans on watching the show.
No.
He's going to watch the finale.
Watch that last episode like I did Mandalorian or something.
Because you're an awful person. No.
Psychopath, dude. Jesus Christ.
Did I tell you that did I tell you that I'm actually going through with my plan on watching all the Schitt's Creek in reverse order, starting with the last episode? I already watched the last episode, so now I'm just gonna, go backwards from there.
Okay, that's pretty funny.
Just to kind of see what that experience is like. I mean, after it's all said and done, it'll be like, I watched all the episodes. I would probably do it with
the shorter show. But
I was just saying, theoretically, he'll get the same character arcs just in reverse. Like, he'll still see the growth of a character, or
I'm gonna get the payoff
of a
first,
character,
and then see like, I wonder how they got to this point, and then I'll see it. No cliffhangers though. That's gonna be the interesting thing.
Just so many questions of why things happened. But yeah, so what?
Anyways, my question to you, Jason, what have you thought of these first 3 episodes? Spoiler free impressions.
Spoiler free. Okay, so I think I really like the idea. And the execution on a small scale works really well, but I think the pacing on a large scale is a little out of whack. So to elaborate on that, I think the concept, and this is in the trailers and everything, but if you haven't seen the trailers, I'm going to say a little. The concept of each episode kind of being a different era of classic sitcom television is really cool. Like the way they're kind of like funneling what's going on through that lens is pretty cool. And the attention to detail in each of those eras, the way they're shot, the intonation of how they speak, the tropes they use for the plot lines, the types of jokes they use, the fact that they're doing jokes that today wouldn't fly. Like there's a couple sexist jokes in there and she always kind of looks at the camera or like gives like a scoff or does like a, you gotta be kidding me sort of thing. Like the way that they're doing all that, the way they do the commercial breaks, the way they, like all that is like pitch perfect. It feels exactly like a show of that era, that each one has its own intro with its own intro music that's kind of that time. Like they do a great like riff on Bewitched for one of them. And really the whole Wanda and her powers and like what Scarlet Witch can do and how she does it around the house is basically Bewitched. Like the whole thing's an homage and a send up, and that's really cool. It has laugh tracks and all that. So I think that's great, and they're doing it at that level is really interesting. What I think the show, for me, until the new episode that came out, the 3rd episode, I felt like they were leaning too much on the homage to the old school sitcom, and not enough on the kind of deeper underbelly. Because again, without trying to spoil anything, maybe a slight spoiler, I'm not sure, but like ultimately, what the show really is about is like it seems like Wanda coping and how she copes, and it seems like whether she's choosing this coping mechanism or someone's forcing it on her or what, it seems like the coping mechanism is, well, I grew up in Eastern Europe. My vision of what the perfect life is what I see on these old reruns of American sitcoms. What?
No, I thought, you said Vision.
Oh, yeah. But like her, and she, like, this is what the perfect, like, life is. So to cope with what happened in Endgame and Infinity War and all that, she is sort of, again, I don't know if by choice or not, buried in these sort of recreations. And there's, like, little hints in the first 2 episodes where things like, well, this is somewhat weird, and she sort of knows something's off, and then she kind of, like, shakes it off, but they're so few and far between, and so much focus on those first 2 episodes, at least on the surface, seems to be just the silly, like, tropey sitcom plot, that it, until episode 3, where I'd say, like, the back third of it starts to really play with it, the back third of that episode, it really did feel like it was just dragging its feet a little and trying too much to lean on the homage and not enough on what's going on. My opinion changed pretty heavily after watching the 3rd episode.
With the 3rd episode.
Yeah, because then it started to kind of pick up the pace and be more what I think I expected the first 2 to be. But I don't know how you feel about it, Kevin.
So I honestly thought that this was going to go in a different direction.
Really?
You hit the nail on the head. I feel the exact same way. I haven't been fond of the show yet, as there are some people who are absolutely smitten with the show. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but I guess the main reason that I haven't been liking it is because it doesn't feel like its own thing yet. Like you said, they lean, those first 2 episodes especially, I found grating because it leans so much into that classic sitcom aspect that I never found entertaining. I never liked I Love Lucy or the Brady Bunch.
Right.
So all that stuff just goes over my head. I haven't found any of the jokes particularly funny. It just comes off to me as incredibly corny. And I know it's by design, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I like the design.
Sure.
If that makes sense.
And it's funny because I feel kind of like there's a couple jokes I smiled at, but I feel kind of the same way, that like mostly I'm just getting through this to see what happens. But on some level, because I am a buff for this sort of silly meta stuff and pop culture stuff. I am like from afar, like appreciating it from a distance, almost like being like, okay, I see what they're doing. Okay, this is exactly how that type of joke could play out. Yeah, it's cheesy. Yeah, I didn't laugh, but like this is an accurate representation of what they are recreating. So I can appreciate that. But yeah, it does make it harder to watch in terms of like being gripping, at least until the third episode.
Exactly. And then like you said, that this, you know, you get a little hot every now and then. This same for me. I haven't laughed out loud at anything in the show yet. That being said, Paul Bettany seems like he could be a shoo-in for comedy movies.
Honestly,
he's got some.
Elizabeth Olsen too. She has like the right beat timing, and she like that old timey voice she was using in like the first episode. Has some comedic chops, which I guess makes sense given her sisters. But yeah,
so
there's some definitely
you cannot say that given her sisters.
Well, I mean, she watched her sisters be on sitcoms, so she's probably seen sitcoms and like kind of gets, you know, she's the younger of the three, isn't she?
Okay, maybe.
So she's just been around the comedy sitcom world. Not necessarily they are super talented sitcom stars, but she has witnessed sitcoms her whole life, basically.
So this is supposed to be a straight up comedy? Because the trailer didn't give me this is a comedy kind of vibe, just kind of like a weird thinker kind of show.
So
like a figure out the mystery.
A lot of people are writing online. What a lot of people are writing online is this is the MCU's take on like classic sitcoms, and it is definitely not that.
It is not that.
And I
at all.
hate that I keep reading that this is the MCU's take on classic sitcoms. I wouldn't even say it's an homage to those sitcoms, honestly, because to me it just feels like a carbon copy of
that's true.
What an episode of I Love Lucy or The Brady Bunch or Bewitched would be, with like some MCU sprinkled in. It's like, especially those first two episodes, it's like 95% just a straight up rip of, you know, those classic sitcoms, and then with just a little bit of the MCU stuff, with like that being Wanda's powers or Vision's, you know, his what do they call it? Like his synthetic look.
Yeah, his red and metal getup.
Yeah, exactly.
It's Angel. It's definitely not. I mean, there are like, if people enjoy those sorts of classic shows, it does, because it's a carbon copy and it is such a direct reference. I mean, literally, like the aspect ratio, the color, black and white, like everything, the multi-cam versus single cam depending on the episode, the clothing of the era, the set design of the era, like it's so right of like just ripped right out of that era. So if someone enjoys those sort of more silly, like simple beat early sitcoms, then yeah, they might say this is the MCU sitcom. But there's definitely like, I think when we get through all 6 or 7 of these, or however many there are.
I think 9.
Okay. Well, when we get through all 9, I think when we look back at those first 2 and then see what this becomes.
It'll make sense.
I don't think it'll make sense. I think it's going to make the first 2 even less of like MCU sitcom and more of this weird, like almost like tragic horror show thing where we're going to see, I'm imagining, some sort of psychological manipulation of, I mean, clearly there is, but more so of Wanda.
Okay. Let's get into like light spoiler territory, and we'll mark
mark it
the
as
beginning of the.
And by the way, the only reason I was comfortable saying that without spoilers is in the trailer they basically say it without saying it.
Oh, so, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but let's talk a little more. I have just some to give theories,
the little tidbits. I don't really have any theories. There is one theory that I've got, but it's not even that big of a deal. So yeah, okay, we're going into spoilers for WandaVision here.
Yep.
So as Jason mentioned, I guess the turning point finally has been this third episode that shows a little bit more of the mystery of what's been going on. So we're still not sure if Wanda is a prisoner of, you know, this what it seems like a bubble around a small little sleepy town, or if she is doing this on purpose.
Yeah. And I think to kind of finish the thought before we entered spoilers, that now with spoilers makes more sense, is I think by the end of the series, what we learn of how this came to be and what she is, the situation she's in, is actually going to make those first 2 episodes not funny and not like, oh, it's a sitcom, but actually almost probably tragic in a way. Like it's going to be like kind of like, it's like a weird twisted, like not horror show, but you know, I think the New York Times or some reviewer used the term horror show. I wouldn't go that far, but it's definitely going to like make it look like it's really dark. Like, yeah, it's this tropey sitcom, but like once you see presumably episodes 4 through 9, you're going to look back at those and be like, that was actually dark. Like the way that she's like gritting her teeth through it and stuff. But yeah, I initially was of the opinion that she was creating this for herself as an escape, to kind of go back to what I was saying about, like, you know, what the perfect American life is. And she watched it, you know, as a kid when she was in Eastern Europe, and she's like, oh, I want to recreate this because that'll be my escape. And maybe like each episode, so to speak, because I think there's 5 or 6 of the 9 that are going to be different eras of TV, could be like each stage of grief in some way or something. I don't know. But now I'm starting to think, based on episode 3, because the bubble was sort of popped and someone was extracted out, and it wasn't her, it wasn't Wanda that was extracted. I'm starting to think someone is either monitoring her in that bubble that she created or keeping her in that bubble, but it's not fully.
She's definitely being monitored, because the first episode ends with somebody watching that first episode on a TV.
Yeah, I should clarify that. Either they're letting her create her space and then just keeping the piece there to learn something, or they are keeping her there because they're afraid of what she'll do if she's not there. Is I guess what I'm trying to say.
Well, so I think the organization at this point has been confirmed as SWORD.
Yes, the imagery's everywhere.
Department of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, which is the intergalactic, interterrestrial, interdimensional spin-off of S.H.I.E.L.D., basically, which I feel like is setting up Phase 4 of the MCU.
And whatever, basically whatever Nick Shield was doing at the end of Far From Home.
Yeah, and it's totally like, if you look at what's on the slate for, the MCU, it's like the Eternals and Doctor Strange having a bigger role, and even being the mentor for Spider-Man in the next Spider-Man, like, SWORD's gonna be the new S.H.I.E.L.D. as we go into Phase 4, basically. Like, if S.H.I.E.L.D's falling to the wayside, now it's all about sci-fi, interdimensional stuff, I feel like.
Yeah. So, have you seen all the MCU movies, Jason?
Yes. Yes, I have.
Okay, so that second episode, there's a voice that breaks through like a radio. Mm-hmm. That's absolutely Randall Park's character from
Ant-Man.
From Ant-Man and the Wasp. Okay, yeah. So, that's cool that he's in this. I did like that character, and the fact that they're getting a supporting character from Ant-Man and the Wasp, which isn't a very liked movie, apparently. I really liked that movie.
I enjoyed it. I mean, the ant drumming on the drums was a little ridiculous, but they cut to it 4 times, and by the 4th time I was into it, so.
Maybe it was Randall Park.
Yeah, no, I thought it was a fun movie. But yeah, I'm very curious to see where it goes.
Who is Randall Park?
And like how, what?
Randall Park? Oh,
he was the agent.
He's the main character of, Fresh Off the Boat. I don't know if you've ever seen
He's Kim Jong-un in the interview.
He's who?
Kim Jong-un in the interview.
He's Kim Jong-un in the interview.
Ooh, I barely remember that film. Wait, is he the dude from Always Be My Maybe? Because I saw that recently.
Yeah, that's him.
Oh, okay. That helps.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But yeah, I forgot what I was starting to say. Yeah, I'm curious where this goes. I'm curious if they're going to like introduce a big bad in this, or if it's just going to be like I can't tell if they're going to introduce some sort of major villain to this, or if this is just going to segue into something where a movie where a major villain can be introduced. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if like there's going to be some big bad at the end that's pulling the strings.
Kevin Feige has gone on to record as saying this show, WandaVision, is going to be very important for Doctor Strange.
Okay.
It's going to lead directly into Doctor Strange.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Doctor Strange is where,
isn't there a
quote unquote, he said that Doctor Strange is where she will become the Scarlet Witch.
Gotcha.
I mean, isn't there a movie literally called Doctor Strange and the Scarlet Witch or something like that?
No, it's Doctor Strange in the Multiverse is the name.
In the Multiverse of Madness.
Madness, right. I knew I was forgetting some verbiage.
By one Sam Raimi.
Yeah, right? Like, who would have thought? But yeah, it's, I will say, like, I've never really cared about Scarlet Witch or Vision. Like, they've always been the weak part of the MCU to me. Like, even in, like, Age of Ultron stuff, I'm just like, oh, okay. Like, they just feel like they were shoehorned in and just kind of there. And then
their romance definitely felt that way. It's like, oh, I guess they're a thing now. All right.
Yeah, like, even, or like, you know, obviously, in Age of Ultron, she has a pretty big story arc because it's in her home country, and like Quicksilver's involved and all that happens with him and yada yada. But I was still just kind of like, all right. I mean, she just kind of appeared in a movie once, and now she's a thing, I guess. But but I feel like WandaVision, even though I don't necessarily care about the character, knowing all this stuff is at play and what that can mean for basically all the Marvel movies here on out has made me invested in.
So basically, because they told you, we promise there's a payoff, you're like, all right, I'll give it a shot.
Well, it's not even a promise it's payoff. It's just like it's almost like this is the origin or story about her that was like, I felt was missing. Like, I felt she was just thrown in, and they kind of did some backstories. They threw her in, but she's just there. But this feels like, okay, well, they're sort of resetting, and here she is going forward, and here's how she'll influence everything that happens in the movies. And okay, I can get behind this now. And it feels more, I don't know, it feels more like natural than how she was originally introduced.
I wonder if Aaron Taylor Johnson is going to make an appearance in this show.
He played Quicksilver, right?
Quicksilver.
I mean, spoiler. They name dropped his character already.
The main
dude from Godzilla. This is the first time that they name drop
which also started
Pietro,
Scarlet Witch,
anything outside of Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
Like, do they even mention him at all in Civil War? That's the next time that she shows up on screen, right?
I don't think they do.
Yeah, so her brother hasn't been mentioned in anything up until this episode, and it caught me by surprise.
Yeah.
When Claudine? That's her fake name, right?
Geraldine. Yeah.
Geraldine. When she's like, Pietro's your brother. He was killed by Ultron, and I was like, huh. Yeah. I haven't thought about that dude since Age of Ultron. Back in 2014
or something. Or yeah, 14. You're right. Yeah. One thing that I actually found very beneficial is anyone who does want to watch the show and hasn't checked it out yet. Because Disney's looking for more content for Disney Plus, they have a new limited series, like brief mini series called Marvel Legends, and all it is basically a previously on the MCU, and it's like 7 minutes of just clips of all the movies and all the key points that then become relevant. So like they focused on Quicksilver and her in Age of Ultron in the Wanda version of that, and I watched Vision, and then going into this, it's still confusing if you don't remember much of the movies, but if you remember the basics and just need a refresher, it's a good way to sort of get you in the right headspace to know what's going on and to appreciate things. And to that point, something else I think is probably, like, I'm at a disadvantage because I don't read the comics, but I suspect in the first few episodes when we were like, oh, it's all sitcom tropes, they were dropping hints, I'm sure. Like, I know for a fact the kids that she gave birth to in the newest episode are actually characters from the comic books that become like a big thing. Like, it wasn't just like, oh, she gave birth to two twins, it's a funny sitcom thing. Like, they're relevant to the MCU. And like, the commercials are all different MCU related things, like the fake commercials. There was a Stark reference, there was a Hydra reference, like, so they're laying some little stuff.
There's a Strucker reference, who is direct character from Age of Ultron.
Who was the one that like did like that she originally was involved with, right?
Being experimented.
Yeah, experimented.
The guy who was leading the experimentation on
basically
the twins.
The Stark foil.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like there, and I think as other stuff happens in the MCU, as WandaVision carries on, it might be worth revisiting those first few episodes to see other things that we didn't pick up on. Like, I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know if I'm going to necessarily do it.
Those two episodes are just great. They just get on my nerves.
They were slow. I mean, they're normal sitcoms, but yeah, I just wonder how many layers of references there actually are. But I don't know if I'll have it. I think go back, but I'm curious.
I think in retrospect, it's cool that they released those first two episodes.
Yeah.
Instead of me being like, that first episode, I don't know. Maybe they'll pick up the pace, and then the second episode being exactly the same thing.
I think they should have released all three together. Just release the first as like a little movie.
Yeah, that would have actually. Yeah. I would have loved that actually. Being down on two episodes and then finally getting my spirits lifted in the third episode. And just to be clear, I'm not arguing that this show has to be explosion and beam fights like in the Avengers movie.
Yeah.
It's just that especially those first two episodes devoted a lot of time to those old sitcoms and less time to the overall MCU, I feel like.
I mean, like, Angel, for your reference, one of the episodes they have to do a talent show, and it's literally the struggle of them figuring out their act and then doing their act, and then Vision having some issues because he has gum stuck in his gears, so he's like kind of drunk, basically. But it's like full on a sitcom. Like, and then they just have like 2-3 minute long at most little references to things beyond, like, one thing happens, and another thing happens, and someone says something, and that's it. And then the rest of it's just like, look at the wacky talent show. So yeah, you definitely have to, like, if you're, you definitely have to sit through those if you're wanting something darker or deeper, or,
Yeah, I would absolutely start with the third episode if you do want to see this show. Because I don't think enough happened in those first two episodes.
At least from what we can tell now,
yeah. I don't think enough happens in those two episodes.
But again,
in relation to the outside world.
Yeah.
Especially compared to that third episode where that final 6-7 minutes are absolutely like tension filled.
Oh yeah,
that's what finally got me going.
And it's fun to see. Like, honestly, one of the things I did kind of like in and it happened more in the third one too. But like, there are little like hiccups or glitches or weird things that happen. Like in the third episode where
that glitch in the middle of the third episode where
because she resets it.
It cuts back like a couple of seconds. I was like, wait, did something happen there? I like restarted it. Not restarted it. I went back a couple of seconds like, oh, that's just by design. Okay.
Yeah, like that. Or even just like there was one, also in the third episode where Vision says hi to their neighbor who's trimming the hedges, but like he's not trimming the hedges. His trimmer like went into the wall, and he's just like trimming the wall and not even knowing.
So like into the concrete blocks.
Yeah. Like just like there's little things that are just like kind of like not unsettling, but a little like weird, and you're just like, what?
Off kilter.
There we go. Yeah. But yeah, so it's interesting. I'm really very, very much interested in where it goes from here. Yeah.
I mean, if it sounds
I got 6 episodes left.
Yeah.
I mean, if it sounds like
nice to have the MCU back.
I mean, that's always exciting, no matter what.
And on some level, like, props to the creators of this of being like, all right, well, if Disney's having us do a TV show, because, like, you know, Falcon and Winter Soldier was supposed to come out first, and that was just going to be, I think, just like, it's just a 6-episode, hour-long episode, like, action-filled, normal MCU style thing.
I think WandaVision was always supposed to come out first of these shows.
Oh, I thought Winter Soldier got delayed. Oh, okay. Well, if WandaVision came out first.
I'm pretty sure WandaVision was always the first one.
Well, either way.
It was the one that started production the earliest out of all these shows.
Okay. Because I would say either way, props to the MCU folk for basically going, all right, well, if Disney's going to have us do these episodic things, let's lean in and do something we can't really do with a movie. You can't have this sort of thing for a movie, like the first couple episodes. That doesn't work. So it was kind of cool to see them adapt to the medium, whether or not, you know.
Technically, Black Widow was supposed to be the start of Phase 4.
Well, Black Widow is also kind
of
kind of also a prequel, so it's like its own weird siloed thing. But yeah, so it's interesting. It's very interesting, and seriously, they put a lot of effort into mimicking old school sitcoms, and they do it really well, even if it doesn't get interesting till the more modern stuff kicks in.
It mimics those sitcoms so well that it's a little too much. It was a little too much for me.
Yeah. But like the
actually,
effort
it wasn't
of
a little too much. It was too much for me.
I was just gonna say the effort of like crafting it to that extent where like it really feels so old timey that you're like, well, I don't like this genre. Why am I even like, you know, that takes a little effort. That takes some research and everything. So props to them for that at least.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that's WandaVision.
Yeah. So that was WandaVision. Yeah. Okay. I guess I'll talk about this. So after all my pessimism in this episode, I think I can finally talk about something that I have enjoyed in these last 2 weeks. Way more than I thought I would. It's an anime called Kaguya-sama Love is War. Jason, do not tune out for this because
I'm here.
There. I got something for the end.
Ooh.
Angel, have you ever heard of this show?
No, I have not.
Okay. So a couple of episodes ago, I was talking about how I kind of wanted a break from shonen anime, you know, swords clashing, characters fighting, all that kind of stuff. I wanted something that leans shonen, but is also restrained. I wouldn't say that this anime is that. It's actually much closer to a slice of life anime, but it's actually a slight twist on like romantic comedies, both shows and anime. So the gist of the show is this. It follows 2 high schoolers, Shiro, who is he's the student body president of his academy, and Kaguya, who she is his VP. So they both have feelings for each other, but instead of the will they, won't they stuff that, you know, romantic comedies are pretty much made of, they are both aware that they like each other, but they're both too proud to make the first move. So the show is them coming up with situations to make the other one confess first. It's basically a battle of wits and mind, and I know Angel might go, what? When I say this, but it's like if Death Note was a romantic comedy.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. You have, like, the top 2 academically gifted students in this academy trying to outsmart the other one, and the results are usually pretty hilarious. So, like, in the first episode, Kaguya gets a letter from, like, a secret admirer who wants to meet up, and she's not really going to meet up with that person. She's just using it to her advantage to see if Shiro will confess and, you know, stop her from going on this date with this one person that she's never met. So Shiro has to come up with a way to stop her from going without making it seem like he's doing it because he's in love with her. What sort of adds some absurdity into the mix is that there's a third character, the student body's secretary. Her name is Chika, who is completely oblivious to, like, everything that's going around her. And she practically gets unknowingly used in their schemes. Or sometimes she'll be a wild card that just throws a wrench into their planning because she's just like a force of chaos. There's one battle where Shiro creates a Line account, which Line is it's like an Asian WhatsApp. Territorial specific WhatsApp.
It's Asian WhatsApp.
Yeah, exactly. That battle is like who asks for the other's Line account first. Shiro's way of trying to win is like he adds Chika first, and Chika remarks like, "Oh, your profile picture is a baby picture of you," and he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna change it." So that now he's trying to force Kaguya's hand to ask for his account first, and so that he won't go to her to ask for her account, you know?
Yeah.
And like almost every episode contains 3 battles like this. And towards the end, there was a couple of side chapters, but I think that that's done by design just so that it doesn't get too repetitive. I have called all these things battles is because the show absolutely treats them like battles. The subtitle is Love is War. There's a narrator throughout the entire series that will give insight to whatever tactic she or Kaguya are using to get the other one to crack. And like the ways that they mess with each other to make the other confess is so funny, and it's reflected with how like some of the scenes are drawn, like the zoom ins on the characters' faces when they have to think quick on how to counterattack, the constant hearing them internally screaming at their situations. They even do that thing that Death Note does, Angel, where like the background will get gray and then lights will be like have like a blue filter on him.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
they do that. It's like I said, this is Death Note as a romantic comedy. I think what this anime also benefits from is that it's pretty grounded in realism. It's only 12 episodes long, so the animation and art style are very, very, very good. It never looks lazy, and you know how I hate my lazy animes, even in regards to animes that I love. And then whenever the show does try to make something look ridiculous, it looks ridiculous, but it looks awesome. Like, in one episode, they do visualize Kaguya and Shiro's battle as like a World War I aviation dogfight. This show was so funny.
Yeah, you have
definitely
my
gotta get to the list.
I think it's a really clever idea.
Yeah, I couldn't find the dub anywhere. If you know me, I usually watch the dubs because I don't find dubs cringy or anything. So I did have to watch it subbed. But unlike like other animes, that meant I couldn't play a game while watching it. So maybe that also plays into why I like the show so much, because I was actually paying attention to it. And like Jason, I would absolutely recommend that you watch this with your girlfriend. Honestly, it's like pretty wholesome, and like with a small exception near the end of the series or the season, there's like no drama the entire time. So it's just a pretty good time.
I just
think it's
fun.
a really well done anime.
Yeah, like it sounds like it's just leveraging the anime medium to do like just go all out ridiculous, which
exactly.
Which is kind of
it's
more
so
my cup of
funny.
tea, so.
It's never mean spirited at all. I think this is especially an anime that I needed right now, especially because I finished Tokyo Ghoul and I talked about how much that show sucked.
Right.
And then I just finished this one other shonen anime called Noragami, and that show was actually pretty good, but not an anime that's good enough that I would dedicate a QC segment for. And like, you know, right now the final season of Attack on Titan is going on, and that looks like it's going to be incredibly entertaining, but miserable. Like that last episode, Jesus Christ. I'm sure me and Angel will talk about that when it's over.
It's over. Damn.
Yeah. And this show apparently does have a second season that is dubbed, but I can't find it anywhere legally, so I might have to get creative about how I watch that. But Kaguya-sama Loves War. I never thought that I would enjoy the show as much as I do. It's so clever. It's so funny. It's
so good.
I know it's a good time. I would absolutely recommend this to anybody who likes like romantic comedies, which I like my romantic comedy. I like a good one. You know, The Terminal, probably one of my favorite ones. Tom Hanks.
Terminal's good.
That's a romantic comedy?
Yeah.
Huh.
Every time I'm in an international airport, I'm always like, could I live here? And like look around. Ever since I've seen it. And most often the answer is yeah, I probably could.
Yeah, it's Kaguya-sama.
Damn.
Watch it, Jason, with your girlfriend.
I will pass along the recommendation.
If the first episode doesn't do it for you, then I don't think the rest of it will.
Right, but at least give the one.
At least give it a shot.
Yeah. I really like the premise. It sounds wacky in a very fun way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did you want to talk about this last thing, Angel? Or you want to save it?
I think we could save it.
Ooh, a cliffhanger for next time.
Yeah.
Cool.
I definitely have a lot to say about it. I mean, there are 104 episodes that I watched of this in 2 weeks.
Oh, Jesus. I didn't know.
That's your hint, listener. Go Google what has 104 episodes and see if you can figure it out.
I'm kind of embellishing it.
Tell us, and you won't
in
win
reality,
anything.
it's, I guess, 52 because each of them is 11 episodes long. They just kind of split into two. They have nothing to do with each
minutes, I hope.
11 minutes.
No,
yeah, 11 minutes.
Each episode is 11 episodes.
So there's
That's Dragon Ball Z, I think.
So there's 104 11-minute episodes. We'll put it that way.
Ooh, even more tantalizing. I think, someone tweet us with your guess. You won't win anything. But you could do it anyway.
Cool. Let us know what you thought about this episode, either in the comments or on our Twitter at randomnintendo.com. You were probably
no
hearing
com
this on
on
the
the Twitter.
podcast app.
No com on the Twitter.
What?
Just Random Nintendo. That's our YouTube. It's Random Nintendo.
Did I say comma?
You did.
Why do I keep... That's our YouTube. Random Nintendo Cop. That's our YouTube channel.
Yes, sir.
You're probably listening to this on the podcast app, whether it be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeartRadio. I feel like I'm missing one.
You know who you are out there. App we didn't say.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to us on whatever podcast app you are. Individually, we are... Well, not we, but Jason is JSR7.
Yep.
Angel is Weiro _O, WEIRO _O. I am... What am I? I am...
You're KVN Gomi.
I am KVN Gomi.
Having an identity crisis.
Yeah. And that'll do it for this episode. Jason, take us out.
It has come to my attention that select Walmarts around the country are selling Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition for only $10. So if you need something to do this weekend or this week or whenever, safely go to your Walmart and get what's supposedly a very good game for a very cheap price.